Chess friends, welcome back to another epic adventure on the 64 squares. I hope you're doing fantastic. Today, I did something insane. The Stockfish 18, played a game against the super strong chess engine Torch, also known as Torch AI, developed by the brainy folks at chess.com. And let me tell you, this game was absolute madness. I began the game like a true romantic, e4, the king's pawn opening. Classic, simple, aggressive. Torch replied with e5, meeting fire with fire. Then I played knight to f3, developing and attacking the e5 pawn. Now, in this position, black has a few options. He can go knight to c6, which is standard. Or he can try c6 and d5, a Caro can kind of approach. But remember, the number one rule in the opening is to protect your center pawns first. So what does Torch do? Torch plays knight to f6, entering the Petrov defense, also known as the Russian game. This is a super solid, drawish line. But I'm not here to draw, I'm here to dominate. So yes, I could have gone into the main lines, captured on e5, followed with d6, knight takes e4, then played d4 and d5, the whole Petrov setup. But you guys know me, I'm not interested in boring theory. I want action, I want complications, I want explosions on the board. So instead of capturing on e5, I played d4, going for immediate central control. Now, of course, black can capture this pawn. If he does, I'm ready with e5, kicking the knight away. Then after queen takes d4, my queen takes center stage. Knight back, queen e4, then knight to c3, and development continues. Soon we play bishop to e7, black castles short, and I go for the dramatic long castle, throwing the kitchen sink with a semi-open rook file on the d-file. This is war. At this point, black usually plays d6, trying to open up their bishop and maybe exchange pawns to reduce pressure. But that's when I drop h4, yes, the flying pawn attack. And if you're wondering why it's called flying pawn, it's because this little guy flies across the board like a missile, supported by my knight jumping into g5 and my bishop slicing through diagonals like a samurai. Now imagine this, your light-squared bishop becomes the MVP. Like an elite sword master, it cuts through the dark defenses of Torch AI, dimming its beam until its battery runs out. Meanwhile, you've got open rook files, total piece coordination, and central pressure that feels like a truck on your opponent's position. But guess what? Torch didn't fall for it. He didn't capture the pawn on d4. Instead, we get knight takes e4, a sharp and tricky line. Now I could have taken back with knight takes e5, but again, I'm not playing book moves. I want to challenge Torch's AI brain with creativity. So instead, I played bishop to d3, attacking the knight and forcing it to move. Torch responds with d5, trying to kick me out of the center. But now, I strike, knight takes e5, reclaiming control. My knight is now firmly planted in the center, and I'm ready to call in queen to f3, putting pressure down the f-file and keeping an eye on critical central squares. This is how you think like Stockfish, total coordination, constant threats, and efficient moves. Torch plays knight to d7, clearly feeling the heat and trying to reduce pressure. I develop with knight to c3, and soon we get knight exchanges. Torch has the option of knight takes c5, which would leave me with double pawns and a weak pawn structure. That's usually a problem in the endgame, but remember, we're still in the middle game, and structure is secondary to initiative. Torch knows this and instead plays bishop to d6. Now, here comes the trickiest question of the game, do you capture the knight or not? Most players immediately capture out of habit, thinking hey, a free piece. But this is a trap. If you capture the knight right now, you walk into rook e1, and suddenly, you're facing f4, and then maybe g4, and then you're swimming in tactics you weren't prepared for. And just like that, you've got tactical malaria. You're sweating, you're hallucinating, you're out of book, and you're probably losing. So here's a huge tip I want you to remember: don't just play the move in front of you, think 3 moves ahead. That's right, chess is not just about the now, it's about the future. If you can visualize 3 or 4 moves ahead, you'll stop blundering and start setting traps like a grandmaster. Do this daily. Train with puzzles, play slow games, and activate your brain neurons. So going back to the position, Torch didn't capture the knight because, as expected from a professional chess engine, it understands the consequences of small mistakes. Instead, it calmly played knight to f6, developing and preparing to castle. I responded with queen to f3, a quiet but powerful move. The queen now eyes the long diagonal and also supports central pressure. It also adds potential pressure on the king side, especially in combination with a later bishop sacrifice or rook lift. At this point, bishop to g4 might look tempting for black, but it's not possible. My knight is sitting ready to gobble it up, so Torch doesn't fall into that trap. Black castles, completing development and securing the king. I continue the attack with bishop to g5, immediately poking the f6 knight, which is the key defender of the king side. Torch doesn't want complications here and moves the bishop back, trying to regroup and neutralize my threats. Then comes my rook to c6. This is where you start seeing the big plan forming. It's not just a rook move, it's a setup. The rook eyes the 6th rank and may swing to the king side or even control files later. I bring in rook to b1 next, and this is the part that beginners often ignore: piece coordination. Rooks are most dangerous on open files, and now my rook on b1 stares down an open file ready to join the attack. Here's a simple chess tip that works in every game: make your pieces active and position them on meaningful squares. Don't move them just for fun, place them where they breathe, where they bite. You can now see how my strategy is coming together. My light square bishop is poking at the pawn on h7. The rook on b1 might swing over to e3 and then to the h-file, and the queen could easily jump to h3 or h5, creating multiple attacking ideas. But the important thing here is not to rush. Chess is not a game of fireworks all the time. If you jump too quickly, the opponent might exchange your attacking pieces and dull your firepower. That's why Torch tried to kick my bishop and force an exchange. But as I've said many times, don't exchange unless it's useful. I simply move the bishop back to keep the tension alive, and now my mind shifts to a new idea: playing c4. This is a deeper plan, designed to open the diagonal for my bishop and support central activity. Once the c-file opens, my dark square bishop gets more freedom, and my rook could become deadly. Then knight to g6 becomes an idea because it creates a threat on the king side while keeping pressure in the center. Queen to g3 becomes real. She will then have access to g6, building a direct threat to the king. You might even see a bishop sacrifice on h6 coming soon. The pawn structure will shatter, and black's king will be exposed. These are your attack strategies, but remember, don't play these aggressive ideas too early. You have to time them perfectly. Wait for the position to allow it. Let your opponent get just a little bit careless. That's when you strike. So I play c4, preparing the explosion. And if black plays any slow move now, I will break open the center. Center exchanges will favor me because my pieces are all ready to jump in. And again I repeat, c4 is not just a pawn move. It's a signal. It opens the bishop's diagonal, and when the bishop has an open path and the rook has an open file, you know you're ready to attack. Now black captures the pawn on c4. At first, This seems like a smart idea, it grabs a pawn. But in reality, this gives me exactly what I wanted. My bishop now sits proudly on the open diagonal. The knight begins to dominate the center. The queen is ready to jump into g3. The rook, my friend, is eyeing central domination. It's thinking, should I go to e4 or e3? I could lift myself, become a hero, and maybe, just maybe, find purpose in this cruel game of kings. Classic rook identity crisis. It wants to support the central files, maybe prepare for a battery, double rooks, or even just spook the enemy king into a misstep. So, rook lift is definitely on the radar. But before we do anything drastic, boom. Knight to d5 hits the board. Torch drops the knight into my territory like it owns the place. It's not just a move, it's a question. A loud question. It's saying, yo Stockfish, you gonna let me sit here, or you gonna do something about it? At this point, I had a choice. The simple idea is to take the knight and hope for a better world. But in chess, and in life, not every capture is a victory. If I dare to take the knight, I would lose more than I gain. Yes, I might win a pawn, maybe even claim some bragging rights on social media. But reality is different. If I capture that knight, I lose my beautiful light-squared bishop, my attacking sword, my pride, my knight-slaying companion. And it doesn't stop there? If I capture the knight, black gets serious counterplay. The bishop recaptures, targets my other knight, and suddenly, bam! The a2 pawn drops. My opponent has a passed pawn, and my attacking energy is gone. Meanwhile, the enemy king. Safe. Guarded. Sitting in a private fortress with Z+ security and surveillance cameras. So what did I do? I didn't take the knight. I did what any cold-blooded, strategic genius would do. I retreated. Yes, I pulled back my bishop. Not out of fear, but for deeper calculation. Like a martial artist stepping back to prepare a strike. Bishop to d3 comes on the board, realigning my attacking bishop like a diagonal sniper. This is a martial arts move, crisscross sword bishops, pressuring the kingside from afar. Black responds. The knight moves back. A wise move. But then I played something sneaky. Something devilish. Something that will give your chess coach nightmares. Can you guess what I played? Think. Think hard. This is titled Think Like Stockfish, and if you don't try, you'll become my morning breakfast, metaphorically speaking. I sacrificed my bishop. Boom. Bishop takes h6. Right on the board. No hesitation. No warning. Just pure chess violence. Yes, I sacrificed my bishop. You have to take it, there's no choice. Because I'm already up a pawn, and you know what happens now? The kingside collapses. The g-file is gone. Wide open. I immediately go queen to g3 check. The king panics. It looks around, can't go left, can't go right, can't even retreat in peace. The squares are blocked, guarded, filled with fear. The king is forced to walk to the hospital. King to h8. Emergency mode. But I'm not done. No, no. I'm just warming up. Now comes the knockout punch, queen to h4. Right in the face of the king. The queen is looking at the g5 square, and the black pieces are useless. I mean it, absolutely useless. They're still chilling on the queenside, sipping tea, while their king is being mugged in a dark alley. Now black thinks, okay, I'm gonna bring back my knight. Let's try knight to g8, protect the king. Please, someone help. But guess what? Knight to g8 is not possible. And do you know why? Because I now play the move that wins hearts, tournaments, and YouTube subscribers. Knight takes f7. Boom. Tactical masterpiece. It's a fork. King and rook are hit at the same time. And if you dare capture my knight, I take your queen. Just like that, your love story is over. Let me tell you something very important here. These are human-like, logical, training-based tactics. You too can learn this. You must solve puzzles. You must practice forks, pins, and discovered checks. Here's a motivational quote for you. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. The past is a place of learning, not a place of living. So back to the position. Knight to g8 is off the table. The bishop. Not helping. The queen. Still asleep on the wrong side of the board. You had your chance to build a defense, but now it's too late. And now comes the final nail in the coffin. If you capture my knight, guess what? I capture the pawn on g7. Queen takes g7. Now your king is cooked. After a few trades, I go queen to h7, and you're looking at checkmate. Game over. GG. Shake hands. The rook can come to e3 or g3, and this is not random. This is why the rook was quietly placed on e1 several moves ago. It's like when you plan ahead in life and suddenly realize why you packed an umbrella even though it looked sunny in the morning. These are the small tactical investments that pay off later. This is what separates casual players from the ones who think 3 moves ahead and drink water during games. Now, back to the original position. Instead of capturing the knight, which looks juicy, by the way, black plays king to g7. It's the only move, because the king needs to protect that f6 pawn, which is like the last wall standing between order and total chaos. Now the board is tense, like the moment before you click submit on a risky online purchase. Here's where your brain needs to stretch a little. How can you keep applying pressure? You already have a knight in the center doing yoga, super flexible, controlling squares, just chilling, and you've got to bring another piece into the attack. So, the move is, rook to e3. This isn't just a random shuffle, it's a signal. You're getting ready for rook to g3, and that's going to increase the heat on the king side like opening a microwave halfway through. Now, a lot of players, especially under time pressure, might panic. They might try rook to h8, thinking, oh no, let me make an escape route for my king. But guess what? Doesn't matter. You can still go rook to g3, check, and then rook to f3. Boom, just like that, you've got 2 snipers aiming at the f7 pawn, and your knight in the center is like a coiled spring, just waiting. And then comes the real sauce. When black moves their bishop back, maybe to try and survive, now you go bishop to c4. Why? Because this opens up the pressure on f7 even more. You're like, hey, I just got my bishop into the party, and now the whole squad's here. It's like assembling the Avengers, except in this case, the villain has no way out and your queen is Iron Man with a checkmate plan. Let's say now the rook gets into position, you take the pawn, and boom, queen takes h6, check. Now it's raining checks. After that, queen to g6, and at this point, it's like black is in a boxing ring with 5 opponents and no gloves. The rook is attacked, the knight can't move without exposing a key piece, the queen is nowhere near the action, and the board is basically screaming, the end is near. So let's rewind again. If you're black, there are no good defensive moves. It's like your house is on fire, and you have a single glass of water. One option is rook to e8, which is just trying to bail water out of the Titanic. It's not going to save the ship, but it looks like you're doing something. Now, here comes a sneaky idea. Instead of trying to smash everything right away, sometimes the best move isn't aggressive. It's strategic. You play f4, and you're not just pushing pawns. You're blocking the dark square bishop from getting into the game. This is chess maturity right here. You're saying, let me just take the air out of this balloon before it floats away. Meanwhile, rook to g3 is still in the air like a drone strike, anytime now. Now imagine black tries to do something clever. Maybe they sacrifice a piece, let's say knight to g4, trying to bait you into a queen exchange. You might be tempted, oh wow, I get a knight and we trade queens. But hold on. Don't take that bait just yet. If you capture the queens, you're left with a knight and bishop, and black has two active pieces too, maybe a rook and bishop, and suddenly the position is just equal. All that attacking brilliance, and now you're sitting in a draw. That's like baking a cake for 3 hours and forgetting the sugar. So here's a tip, and this one's important: avoid queen trades when your opponent's king is in danger. The queen is your most powerful attacking piece. Keep it on the board like it's your MVP. You can joke around, give the middle finger to your opponent's defense, metaphorically, but don't literally do it on chess.com or you might get banned. No memes in real life. Alright, back to business. Let's say now you capture the knight. Boom, you're getting your material back, and then you go g5, opening the board. Black responds with h5, trying to keep some defense. Then you unpin the rook, maybe go g6 to blow open your bishop's diagonal, and suddenly everything is working in perfect harmony. It's like your pieces are in a dance routine and black is just watching, out of rhythm. The knight in the center. Absolute monster. It's putting pressure on everything, a total game changer. Then we get h4, queen jumps in, maybe f6, and now the pawn on g6 becomes a defensive hero for black. It's like an umbrella pawn, shielding the king from rain, lightning, and your pieces. So now what? Your queen and rook are just sitting there, and you've got to find the plan. You've got a great position, but passive pieces can throw it all away. So the real question is, how do you keep the momentum alive? How do you bring the rest of the army into the battle? And that's where the magic happens. And after a series of captures, we have rook to a5, getting to the 5th rank to protect the position. Now we have queen to g4 check, and you can see that the black king is left with 0 defending pieces. Here's another chess tip for you: reduce all the defending pieces on the black king side. In this position, black has 0 defending pieces, therefore, if he dares to capture the pawn, it will lead to queen to g6, followed by rook to e8, resulting in a checkmate. The king alone will be depressed. I mean, a king alone in chess is like a king alone in war. Alright, so going back to the position, the king cannot capture the pawn, therefore, after the rook moves here, you cannot capture the rook at all because there is queen takes queen, the queen moves, and a few moves later, you can see how I give some checks. Here I finally capture the rook, and after the capture, we have bishop to c4 check. This is another chess tactic, and you have to rely on chess tactics because chess is about 95% tactics, 2% strategies, and the remaining percentage is openings. Alright. I am determined to win your bishop, and this position is completely winning for me. The endgame is completely in my favor because I am up a piece, and slowly but surely, I checkmated Torch with the bishop and queen. I hope you enjoyed my presentation on how to think like Stockfish. Wishing you all the best. Bye bye, take care, see you soon.